Well, let me begin. I think that my topic is why we are able to trust the Bible. Is that right? Yeah. It is on the screen. Oh, you guys changed my colors because it didn't look good?
Yeah, we don't like the way you did it.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. Who knows what the word apologetics means? Raise your hand. Every question I ask is a real question, never a fake question. Who knows what the word apologetic means? Nobody. Who knows what the word apology means? Okay, what is an apology? Clive, you know what an apology is?
Yeah.
What is an apology? Sorry? Apology is kind of defending yourself, or it's explaining the situation, it's apologizing, it's an answer. Apologetics is a term we use to describe what we do when we defend the basic ideas of Christianity. Does that make sense? You guys have probably been to apologetics conferences. You've probably seen things on TV or on YouTube. Andrew and Junior, you guys do some apologetics on Tuesday nights. I'm going to talk to you guys a lot, just letting you know. Okay, you guys do a little bit of apologetics there. I got to confess to you at the beginning, I don't love apologetics a ton. And here's why. It seems strange to me that I have to go around defending my most basic beliefs instead of just like actually teaching them and preaching them. In one sense, I think apologetics can be helpful. In another sense, I think it can be a little bit distracting. How many of you have been going to church for a while? Okay, most of you have. You've grown up learning basic tenets of the faith. How many of you have ever experienced doubt about some of the things that you believe? A few of you have. I think that's a normal thing to experience. On the one hand, I think we can talk a lot about all the intellectual reasons that you're safe to believe the things that you've been taught. I think there are really, really good reasons to believe the things that you've been taught. I don't think like the thin line between believing in Jesus and not believing in Jesus is being able to explain and defend everything that you believe. How do you get saved? Do you get saved by thinking your way to God? No. You get saved because God intervenes in your life supernaturally. He gives you a new heart and a new life. It's something that God does. It's not really something that you do. However, apologetics helps us to strengthen our faith a little bit. It's a supplement to things that we already believe and know. It helps us to be comprehensible to our culture around us, that understand us. Have you guys ever invited anyone to church? Yes. Who's invited someone to church? And you say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come to church. We are going to sing songs about a guy for a few minutes, and then we're going to talk about that guy for 45 minutes, and we're going to eat his body and drink his blood, and then we're going to talk about that or sing more songs to that guy for like 20 minutes or so. Like, if you've never been to church, you're like, what are we doing? That sounds insane and crazy. And so apologetics can be one of the ways that our culture can understand us a little bit better. We live in a bit of a new time. You guys have access to the internet? You like that? As you get older, you'll like it less and less, I promise you. People being able to email you at all times, ask you for things. It's going to be awful. You'll see. Not to bear the bad news for you guys. There's lots of places we can go to see what people have to say about Jesus, to find various arguments for the existence of Jesus or the reliability of the Bible, and that's really, really, really good. But most Christians throughout all of human history have not been able to access that information. So, being able to defend the faith is important. I think it can help you strengthen your faith. You can understand what you believe better, but it is not necessary, strictly speaking, to believe in Jesus. Now, if I had arrived here and I had found out that what I'm doing is not talking about the Bible, but instead I was going to debate a flat earther, first, I'd be really mad at Andrew and Junior, who misled me and set me up to be humiliated in front of a bunch of high schoolers and junior hires. Because if a flat earther showed up, I would not win that debate. I would lose. I would look like an idiot. I believe the earth is round. You guys believe the earth is round? Most of you do. Some of you guys don't. Okay, Andrew will take care of that later for you. Meet with him. He'll defend for you why the earth should be round. Most people believe the earth is round. I believe the earth is round. If someone put a gun to my head and said, tell me, is it flat or round, that my life was on the line, I would say round. It's a sphere. But if I got into a debate with a flat earther, I would not be able to defend myself. I would look like an idiot. I would lose to a flat earther. The reason for that is my belief that the earth is a sphere, a globe, does not rest on my own research. It rests entirely on consensus, on what other people have said. Can any of you guys actually defend well that the earth is round? Maybe a few ways. Maybe I should brush up on my round earth theory so I can defend myself against flat earthers. It is appropriate to trust experts. I brought some books for you guys. Not for you guys, but to show you guys. Here's a book called Can We Trust the Gospels? It's a short little book by Pete Williams. Pete Williams' eyebrows are out of control. Gary Habermas and Lacona. Here we go. The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus. Does this look intimidating? Yes. It's not intimidating. It's fine. The Legend, or the Jesus Legend. Does this look intimidating to you? Yes. What do you guys think? No? Okay, that's good. You guys feel smart today? All right. How about this book? This is called The Early Text of the New Testament. Does this look intimidating to you? Yes. How about now? No? Okay, good. We've got Jesus and the Eyewitnesses. This is a great book written about 20 years ago. Does this look intimidating? Yes. That one does? What do you think? Come on, guys. It's not intimidating. You're smart. You're smart. Okay, this is called The Resurrection of Jesus. How's this one look? A little worse. A little worse than the others. A little worse than the others. You listen to the audio all day long? Audiobooks count as reading. Audiobooks count as reading. Too bad you guys don't have a mic to make your argument for why audiobooks don't count as reading. On the one hand, I think that we can believe things on consensus and trusting experts, it's fine. I think these are wonderful books that can help you in a variety of ways. There's a million other ones. I'm going to give one book away. I get books from Pastor Mike's office. So this is not my book. No. I'm going to give it away, though. I need it. So I picked a number between 1 and 10. 7. Sorry, Geneva. 7's incorrect. Stop. Raise your hand. Okay, leaders. Unfortunately, I will not be calling leaders. All right. Yes. 3, incorrect. 2. Incorrect. 4. Incorrect. Oh, 5. Look at that. Look at that. You can thank Pastor Mike for that book, or maybe just not tell him that I gave it to you. Either one is fine. I want to work through 2 questions tonight, or this morning. These 2 questions I get asked all the time. There's a lot more we could do here. I originally did this talk, and it was 2 hours long, and that's too much time. So now it's hopefully going to be 45 minutes. We'll see. I'm already 15 minutes in. It could be bad. The first question I want to ask is, did Jesus exist? What do you guys think? Yes. You think probably he did? Let me show you some people that don't think that. Hopefully. Show me that next slide. There we go. This is Philip Marks, SOS on Twitter. If I could, I would rid the world of religion. I really don't care if you think people need it. It's a cancer on this planet. God is a lie. Jesus never existed. Be good because it's right, not because of the threat of hell. In case you're wondering, be good because it's right. It's called a tautology. It doesn't make any sense. Here's another one from Kaya Jacobson. Jesus never existed. He's a compilation in a book about fake things. Here's another one. I like this one a lot. This guy's an important question. What is the reason people celebrate Christmas when Jesus never existed? By the way, this is posted by Pretend Person. I don't really know what's going on there. If you go on to like Reddit or YouTube or Twitter, you'll probably find people that talk about this theory that Jesus never existed at all. Scholars call it mythicism, that Jesus is just a myth. You might find a lot of people online saying this. Nobody who is an expert in New Testament studies, even the many, many people I know that are not Christians that study the New Testament, nobody thinks Jesus didn't exist. They all think that he existed. All of scholarship agrees on this. There's literally no confusion. The only thing you need in order to argue that Jesus didn't exist is like an account on Twitter. That's it. You don't need anything else. There's a number of reasons for this. One is the type of God that Jesus is. Can you guys name some other gods? You're like money, power. No, okay. Is Buddha a god? I don't think Buddha's a god. Is he? Okay, all right, let's just get right past Buddha. Who else we got? Zeus. Zeus is an interesting god. What does Zeus look like? He's old. I said, what does Zeus look like? And someone said, a god. What's that? He looks like Kratos. Kratos is a god. Let's stick with Zeus. Let's stick with Zeus. Zeus looks like Hades. I'm getting too many answers, guys. But I'll tell you what, I love that you're answering questions. It's great. Where was Zeus born? Olympus. Are you sure? How about this? What country was he born in? Are you sure? When was he born?
Africa.
When was he born? When was Zeus born? Do we know when he was born?
2012.
No. Who was the governor of Judea when Zeus was born? No. Do you guys see the question I'm trying to get at? Zeus is a heavenly god who did all kinds of bad stuff. We don't have like a historical accounting. He's a god that like exists off in the ether. He's not real. He's like Santa Claus. When was Santa Claus born? You guys don't know, right? Oh, sorry. Are you guys too young for this? Too old for this. Santa Claus doesn't exist. Did I get anyone here? Sorry. Your parents are buying you those presents. Be good so your parents get you presents. Shocking but true. No Santa Claus. All right, so you guys got people like Zeus, like Santa Claus. You have people like Jesus, who is a very different kind of God compared to those. Here's another one. You heard of Mithras? Anyone heard of Mithras? Nobody's heard of Mithras? That's good. You don't really need to hear about Mithras. He's an ancient Near East celestial being. He began in Persia. Talks about him or beliefs about him began in Persia. He was popular with soldiers. In the Roman Empire, soldiers would worship Mithras. Worshipped exclusively by men, so women are not allowed to worship Mithras. He has no historical dates associated with him. We don't know where he was born, who his parents were, who the governor was at the time. He's completely disconnected from history in the way that someone like Santa Claus is. If you're to go to the Encyclopedia of Religion, the Anchor Encyclopedia of Religion, which is like this big, thick, very expensive book that's about religion, we read this about Mithras. In addition to the cosmogonic sacrifice of the bull, relax there were other Mithronic myths: the birth of Mithras from a rock, Mithras' journey in a carriage together with the sun god, Helios riding on horseback through heaven, Mithras throwing a spear against the rock, a fount of water then sprung forth from the rock. The mythogem thus has been compared to Moses striking the rock with his staff. We don't learn anything historical about Mithras. I don't know if my next slide is a picture. This is the only kind of thing we know about Mithras. Mithras is known for slaughtering a bull. You guys see that? He's got a knife. He's about to slit that bull's neck. People worship Mithras in a Mithraeum, which was kind of like a temple. There's one in Caesarea near Jerusalem. There's also one in Rome. I saw one in Rome. The one in Rome has a church built on top of it. Way to go, churches. We did it. Get those guys. Thank you, Junior. Let me compare that to one of the most basic creeds about Jesus. For us and for our salvation, Jesus came down from heaven. He became incarnate by the Holy Spirit and the Virgin Mary and was made human. He was crucified for us under, who's that? Pontius. You guys are old enough to read, right? You're not? You're like, it has to be in the form of TikToks only.
I can't read.
Pontius Pilate. He suffered and was buried. The third day he rose again, according to Scriptures. He ascended to heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again with glory to judge the living and the dead. His kingdom will never end. All right. Mithras and Zeus and Santa Claus are all these gods unattached to history. We don't know when or where they were born. To some kids, Santa Claus is kind of a god, right?
Santa Claus isn't a god.
All right, relax, everyone. I got to move on. I can't correct my mistakes. Zeus and Mithras are only heavenly gods. They're totally disconnected from history. We don't know when they were born or where they were born, which governors were in charge of what. For Jesus, we have all of this information. We know that he was born probably around 4 BC. We know that Pontius Pilate was the governor when Jesus was crucified. We know that Caiaphas was the high priest when Jesus carried out his ministry. We know who the governors were in other various places. We know the location he was born in. He's associated with the city. What city is Jesus associated with? Great job. Great job. I've done this for adults, and they all say Jerusalem. I'm like, incorrect. Nazareth and Bethlehem. But Jesus is Jesus of Nazareth. He's got a place. He's got a location. He has a family. He has a place in history that he exists. We know who the governors were, so on and so forth. There is also a heavenly element to Jesus' sort of personhood. He is the second person of the Trinity. He was in existence before the world began. He's the agent of creation. He becomes incarnated as Jesus Christ. He lives out a life. He ascends to the right hand of the Father. All power and authority has been given to him. He'll come back to judge the living and the dead, but he still exists in history. He is not like all these other gods. You guys ever heard this argument like Jesus is just one example of a million guys like him in history? You've ever heard that before? You haven't? Oh, that's good news. I'm glad that's not going around anymore. In case you do hear that, that's nonsense. There's no one really comparable to Jesus as both a figure in history and someone we would consider an eternal God. All right, I got half my time's up, and I got one page done. We're going to keep going. So we have the issue of what type of God is. We also have literary evidence. What does literary evidence mean? Books. These are people writing about Jesus, Jesus being written about. Here's some non-Christian authors. Show me the first one. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy in the back, just running the slides, doing a great job. Who's heard of Josephus? We got Junior in the back. Andrew's not raising his hand. That's suspicious. Festus was now dead, and Albinus was but upon the road. So he assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, whose name was James, and some others. And when he had formed an accusation against them as breakers of the law, he delivered them to be stoned. The content of this particular passage is not particularly important. What I want you to see is Jesus is mentioned in a book that is not the Bible, and this is probably written only a few decades after the life of Jesus. I'm going to give you another one. Lucian of Samosata. This guy's wild. You don't need to read him. He's pretty weird. But he says this. Pay attention. The Christians, worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rites and was crucified on that account. You see these misguided creatures start with the general conviction that they are immortal for all time. Do you guys know that you're immortal for all time? Do you guys know that? Do you know that?
Yes.
That you're going to live forever? Did you know that?
Yeah.
You're going to live forever. You're going to die first, then you're going to live forever. Which explains the contempt of death and voluntary self-devotion, which are so common among them. Lucian is here again writing about Christians around the time of the life of Christ. The Bible is not the only source we have for Christianity. Let me show you another one. Anyone heard of Tacitus? I got Junior. Again, I don't have Andrew. You want to talk about some history later? Let's do it. We'll talk about some history later. I go into Andrew's office all the time. And I talk to him, and I watch him slowly turn back to his computer to work as I just keep talking. I'm not going to stop, Andrew. I'm going to get you. But all human efforts, all the lavish gifts of the emperor, and the propitiation of the gods did not banish the sinister belief that the conflagration was the result of an order. What happened was Rome was burnt to the ground. Anybody been to Rome? Rome is a big city, pretty important in history. It had burned to the ground. Consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero, who people believe probably burned Rome to the ground, fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations called what? Christians, by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate, and a most mischievous superstition. Thus, check for the moment, again broke out, but not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but in Rome. Listen, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Tacitus is writing about Christians. He tells us that Christians worship this guy named Christus. He tells us that Christus was crucified when Tiberius was the emperor. He tells us that Christ was crucified when Pontius Pilate was the governor of that area. Also, he doesn't like Christians. He says that the tortures that were executed against Christians were exquisite, like you're talking about a dessert or something like that. He's super pumped at the way people killed Christians. There are a bunch of places where we read about Christianity outside of Christian texts. Texts that are not written by Christians. Josephus was Jewish. Lucian was a pagan. Tacitus was a pagan. None of them really cared for Christianity, but all of them describe a world, and not only that Christians exist, that Christ existed, but pretty early on, people worship Christ. I'm going to show you some material evidence. You guys know what material evidence means? Stuff, right? So I talked a little bit about the type of God that Jesus is. I talked about literary evidence, things written in books. Now I have some material evidence. I'm just going to show you one. You guys see this? What's this? If the main congregation was this responsive, I'd be so excited. I'm so excited, like, shh. Raise your hand. We're in class. Raise your hand. What is this? All right, in the back. Hold on, all the way in the back. What's your name? What's your name? Evan. That's a great name. Are you 7? I wish you. Evan, who's 7? That'd be cool. Shh. Go ahead, Evan. Jesus on the cross. Okay, what else we got? Who else sees some stuff here? Yes? What's your name? Okay, what's this? It's a very depressed horse. What else we got? CJ. Okay, so we're kind of nailing it. A guy on the cross horse. I want you to enhance this for me. Use technology to enhance it. Okay, so there's a but there. I'm sorry. This is an enhancement. This is an enhancement of what's called the Alexamenos graffiti. This says in the Greek something like, Alexamenos worships his God.
Can we get a spelling?
Do what's that?
Can we get a spelling?
The spelling, no. And Alexamenos worships his God. What's significant about this? You guys can figure this out. It's a horse. So if Christ is drawn as a horse, what does the person who made this graffiti think of Christ? High or low?
You think he's real? He was real.
He thinks Christ was real. He thinks Christ is lame. But what else does this communicate to us? What do the words say? Alexamenos worships his God. What is this telling us? What's that? Well, not in this case, but I like the guess. 0 points added, but good job. What do you guys think? That at least Alexamenos, who's worshiping his God, is high and mighty. That there were people who were worshiping Jesus really, really, really early after the life of Jesus. Just like for context, this is a few decades ago. How many of you guys have an uncle or a grandpa that's over 60? Most of you guys do. Now, what if someone told you your grandpa is God? He created the universe. What would you say? You'd say, no, that's incorrect. He can barely stay awake after 8 p.m. He's not the creator of the universe. Do you see how strange it is that there's someone who could live, and then only a few decades later, people who lived thousands of miles away. This was found in Rome. Jesus was crucified in Jerusalem. Thousands of miles away, people were worshiping that figure as God. This is what we call material evidence of an early high view of Jesus. So people will say what happened was Jesus lived a kind of remarkable life. People liked him a little bit. They admired him. He did some cool stuff. He was a good teacher. And over many hundreds of years, views of Jesus evolved from kind of a nice guy all the way up to him being the creator of the universe. But the Alexamenos graffiti says, no. A few decades later, 1,000 miles away, people were already worshiping Christ as God. That is remarkable. All right, do I still have you? Still with me? A few of you. Okay. I've resisted the impulse to say, are you still with me? 30 times so far. Are you guys proud of me in the back? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm mainly looking for the approval of Andrew and Junior. Your approval matters, but I'm worried about theirs. All right, let me give you one more type of evidence. I got to move fast. Biblical evidence. Do we have Christian sources about Jesus? Yes, we have Christian sources about Jesus. Let me make this as quick as possible. People will say the Christian sources about Jesus are not reliable evidence of the life of Jesus. First, no scholar thinks that. Every scholar thinks that the most important sources for understanding who Jesus was is the Bible. Even my atheist friends who study the New Testament will say, of course, the most important sources about Jesus are the Gospels. They'll say, well, you can't trust the Gospels because they're biased. You ever heard that? Some people will say, you can't trust a Christian source about Jesus because they like Jesus already. And the simple answer to that is every single thing you read is biased. Wow. The Christian sources that we have are reliable. All right, let me move on to something else. In the last, what do I got, 14 minutes? All right, are the Gospels reliable? What do you guys think the answer is? Yes. Good, I'm glad. Should we just skip it then? Yes. Nah, too bad. I'm doing it anyways. I don't care. All right. Let me read you a quote from a guy named Robert Funk. His last name is Funk, F-U-N-K. Be careful, Funk. There is nothing in the Christian story, so far as I can see, that is immune from doubt, is what he says. And as he goes on, he says, all the various areas of Jesus' life are not reliable. We can't trust what the Gospels have to say. This is the classic example of an overstatement. You don't need to leave. Most people disagree with this. I'm going to give you a few reasons why the Gospels are reliable. When you read your Gospels in the New Testament, why it's worth trusting them. Let me give you an example. First, they are very, very early. They were written very, very early. Who do you think the most famous person alive at the time of Jesus' life was? Who do you think it was? Raise your hand. Don't all talk over each other. Raise your hand. Take a guess. CJ. He is now, but he wasn't then. Yes, young man. Julius Caesar's a fantastic guess, and it's almost the correct guess. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. What's that? Romulus was not ever alive. Someone over here. I saw that hand. Okay, what's up? Caesar Augustus is so incredibly close, but also wrong. You guys have to go one more. We got Julius. We got Caesar. Do you guys know who the Roman emperor is after him?
No.
Do you know? Oh, you don't know. You don't know. Jolie, I heard a name. Herod is not correct either. I'm going to give you his name, and you're going to realize that you didn't know this name. Tiberius. You guys know who Tiberius is? The heck are you learning in school? All right. Tiberius is the emperor after Augustus. He's the most famous person alive at the time of Jesus. I want to show you a little chart. Can you guys see this? At the top we have Tiberius, and there are 4 biographies written about Tiberius. One was written by Velleius Paterculus, one was written by Tacitus, who we mentioned earlier, another was written by Suetonius, and a 4th one written by Cassius Dio. Why might there be biographies written about Tiberius? Why? Because he's the man, because he is...
He's the son of Augustus, so he's like really famous.
He's really famous, okay? Because he is the king of the entire world at the time of his life. There always be biographies written by very important men. What I wanted you to see is these 4 biographies, when they're written. You see this column at the far right, originally written? Okay, 30 CE. I'm sorry, I went to a secular school, so they taught me BCE and CE. Look at that. Don't like it? I don't care. It's too late. CE means common era. It just means AD. BC and AD. Don't tell the others that I did this. It was an accident. The first one was written in 30 AD. Tacitus wrote his in 110 AD. Suetonius wrote his in 120. And Cassius Dio wrote his sometime after 200 AD. Couple important notes here. You see the top one? Velleius. You guys see that? He worked for Tiberius. Tiberius hired Velleius and said, I'd like you to write a really great story about my life, and you better make me look good. And then Velleius didn't, and so Tiberius killed him. 30 CE, written really, really close to the life of Tiberius, but it was written so close because Tiberius commissioned Paterculus to write it. The other ones are a little bit later. They're a little bit later. 110 CE, 120 CE, 200 CE. Now I want you to look at the column that says Jesus. What are our 4 Gospels? That was kind of weak. Okay, Matthew, Mark, Luke, Thomas. John, just kidding, John. All right, look when they're written. Matthew was written when? Someone tell me, raise your hand. When was Matthew written? No. 80 to 90 CE. Mark is written 65 to 70. Luke is 90. John is 7 to 130. Big gap there. I think all those dates are a little bit late, but I'm trying to pick good ones. Look how early the biographies are written of Jesus. Jesus, who was not the king of the world. Is that right at the time? He was not the emperor. Did Jesus have an army? No. Did he have political power? Did he have lots of money? Did he ever conquer any enemies by force? He didn't do any of those things. He was crucified on a cross because of sort of, at the time, Jewish and Roman coercion and collision. He died as a criminal, but there are 4 biographies written about him only a few decades after his life. All right, look at this. You see this thing, earliest copy? In the middle? You guys see that? All right, so Velleius Paterculus wrote his biography in around 30 AD. When is the earliest copy we have? Like 1,500 years later. Do you guys understand what that means? That means that we know he wrote this book in around 30 AD, but we don't have a copy of it older than when like Leonardo da Vinci was around. Do you see what I'm saying? In Tacitus, it was written in 110. It's 800 years before we have a copy. In Suetonius, similar. Cassius Dio, He wrote his biography 200 years after the life of Tiberius, which is a really, really long time. Do you know what was 200 years ago for us? No, that was like, I was going to say 50 years, but that was 70 years ago. The Civil War happened like 200 years ago. So you guys know who Tiberius is from school, but you don't know when the Civil War was?
Yeah, that's 8th grade.
That's 8th grade? We'll get there in 8th grade. You're like, that curriculum is for later. Civil War was like 200 years ago. All right, I got to move on, even though I'm surprised about what you are and are not learning. What I want you to see is this. Listen to me. I want you to see is this. The Gospels about Jesus were written really, really early, and the earliest copies we have are also really, really, really early. It's hard to explain why there'd be 4 biographies about Jesus so early if Jesus was not a remarkable person. The best explanation is that, in fact, he did come back to life. I'm going to skip. Oh, you guys don't know because you don't have notes. Let me do one more thing. The Gospels reflect local and native knowledge. Let me give you an example. You guys drove here today, right? Or you got driven here. What street did you drive on to get here? Artesia or PCH or Grant. All right. If you want to get good tacos here, where do you go? Yes, that's where you go, Taco Bell. Weak Taco Bell time. You don't go in and out for tacos? What? 2 blocks down your street. All right, tell me. Shh. You go to Amigos Tacos? Maybe. Where do you go? Ensenada Tacos? That's good. Okay. If you guys want good sushi, if you eat sushi, where do you go? Who eats sushi?
Lazy Acres.
Lazy Acres is correct. What'd you say, Junior? Tokyo Central? You go to Gardena to get sushi? Okay. If you guys want to get something to drink, where do you go? You know all those things, right? You go to Starbucks. You guys have Starbucks at home. You don't need Starbucks.
We do not.
Starbies. I've been talking for 40 minutes. You guys are doing a good job. I'm almost done. Stay with me, all right? Stay with me. Stay with me. All right, let me ask you a question. Who knows where Ghana is? Raise your hand high. Raise your hand high if you know what continent Ghana is on. Raise your hand high.
I know.
Okay, tell me, what do you think? Africa, correct. Are you a Ghana expert?
I'm so smart.
What is the capital of Ghana?
I don't.
Ingrid knows, right? No, you don't. You're supposed to know. Yeah. Anybody know the capital of Ghana? Raise your hand if you know. You don't know. Don't Google it. The capital of Ghana is Accra. What currency do they have in Ghana? Incorrect. It's not going to be Russian. It's not going to be Jamaican. It is Ghanaian. It's the Ghanaian cedi. If you want to get a Tuesday lunch near the University of Ghana in Accra, where do you go to eat lunch?
Wait, what?
Yeah, you want to get lunch out nearby the University of Ghana in the city of Accra. Where do you go? What's a good place to get lunch there? You're like, McDonald's is a wildly good guess because there's a chance there's a McDonald's there. But you don't know, right? Do you guys know what it's like to live in Ghana? No. Not really, right? You don't know where to get good food. You don't know where to hang out. You don't know exactly what you don't know what streets to take. You don't know if it's better to take a bus or take a bike. I used to live in Scotland, which was cold and the food was bad. And it was rainy, and it was dark all the time. And I knew that if I wanted to go to school, I needed to go get exact change from Tesco, which was our local grocery store, because I knew that the bus did not take credit cards, and they only took exact change. I knew what stop I needed to get off. I knew what place I needed to stop on my walk to the bus to get a bacon sandwich that I like. I knew all that stuff, because I didn't just know about Scotland. I knew Scotland because I lived there. Do you see what I'm saying? You can know a lot about a place and not actually know a place. Here's the thing. The Gospels that are in our Bibles look like the people who wrote them don't just know about first century Jerusalem. They knew it. They knew it. The Gospels that are not in our Bible, and there's really not that many, and there's only one that maybe even could be considered even remotely historically reliable, the Gospel of Thomas, sounds like the sort of person who wrote it that knows about first century Jerusalem, but does not itself know Jerusalem. Let me give you some examples real quickly. Here's a list of geographical places that the Gospels that are in our Bible get right. Bethany, Bethlehem, Bethsaida, Caesarea, Philippi, Cana, Capernaum, Chorazin, Emmaus, Ephraim, Gennesaret, Jericho, Nain, Sea of Galilee, Sidon, and on and on and on and on. Hundreds of places. They know where these places are. They know which direction people are walking. They know how long it takes to get places. They know their location in reference to each other. It sounds like the person who wrote the Gospels knows where all these cities are. I'm going to give you a list of all the places that are in one of those Gospels that are written later. You guys still following me? Okay, here we go. Judea and the world. Those are the two places that the Gospel of Thomas mentions. How about names? I'm going to read you a list of all the names in the New Testament. I'm not going to do that. That'd be crazy. Just open Matthew 1, drink some coffee, and try and get through it. There are many names. You guys know some names in the New Testament? Tell me some. Moses is not. Well, I guess technically he's in the New Testament. We'll count it. So Matthew, Mark, Jesus, John. Who else we got? Peter, Paul, other John, other John, other John, other John, other James, other James. Lots and lots of names. And listen, Joseph, the New Testament, the New Testament Gospels get these names right. They understand how first name, last name works. They understand what sort of names would be in certain regions. We can go to cemeteries from the first century and look at the names written on the headstones and realize that the gospel writers understood what names look like in the first century. It does not look like they know about Jerusalem. It looks like they know Jerusalem. Here is every name mentioned in the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus, Matthew, Peter, Mary, James, John the Baptist. That's it. Better than places, but not better than names. I'm going to give you one more example. Who knows what numismatics is?
Nope. What's a what?
Anybody know what numismatics is?
No.
That's fine. It's the study of coins. Anybody collect coins? Just one nerd collects coins. I like it, Clive. Keep it up. Who else collects coins? Numismatics is the study of coins. I'm going to show you two coins. Oh, actually, let me show you this first. Go back, sorry. Here's a little sentence from the Gospel of Thomas, a gospel that was written by someone who knows about Jerusalem in the first century but doesn't know it. They showed Jesus a gold coin and said to him, "The Roman emperor's people demand taxes from us." He said to them, "Give the emperor what belongs to the emperor, give God what belongs to God, and give me what is mine." Does that story sound somewhat familiar to you? It sounds, what's that? Because it's a fake gospel someone wrote about 100 years after the Bible. Yeah, this is a gospel that doesn't belong in the New Testament. I'm going to show you the difference. Do you guys see that real quick? You guys see that? Okay, this is written by someone who knows about Jerusalem in the first century, but doesn't know it, didn't live there, doesn't know the culture or the people. Here's how I know that. Let me show you two coins. All right, the story I just read to you also appears in the New Testament. You guys remember when Jesus holds up a coin and says, "Render to Caesar what's Caesar's and render to God's what's God's"? You guys know that story? Okay. Jesus in the Gospels, he holds up this coin on the left. It's called a denarius. And this was about a day's wage, meaning if you went to work for a day, they'd give you a denarius. So they say to Jesus, "Should we pay taxes to Caesar?" And Jesus says to the crowd, "Who's got a denarius?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, I got a denarius, no problem." What? A single day's wage, that coin on the left. Okay, the coin on the right is called an aurion. Do you think it's worth more than a denarius? Yeah, it's worth like 2 months' wages. So if Jesus says to the crowd, "Who's got an aurion?" everyone's like, "I don't carry that type of money with me." Thomas uses the word aurion because he doesn't know that people were paid in denariuses in the first century and not aurions. Like, he doesn't know. Let me give you, try to illustrate this. I'm hanging out with Junior one day. Is that okay? Okay. And Junior says, "There's a great taco truck 2 blocks down the road. Let's go." I get in the car, we drive down there, we get out to the tacos truck, and I want you to listen for something that doesn't sound right to you, okay? We go to the taco truck, it's cash only. I don't ever carry cash with me. I think it's gauche. I don't ever carry cash. So I say, "Junior, I need some cash for tacos." He's like, "No problem." He pulls out like $6,000, hands me a 20, and then I pay for it. What's the problem there? The problem is Junior kind of sounds like a drug dealer at this point. That's the problem, right? There's no world in which Junior has $6,000. As soon as I say $6,000, you guys know there's something wrong with that story. Is that right? You should know. If someone ever pulls out $6,000, run, okay? You hear me? So when Thomas tells this story, he's a gospel writer that's writing a fake gospel like 100 years after the other gospel writers. He gets the story wrong by using the wrong currency. He does not know Jerusalem in the first century. He knows about Jerusalem in the first century. All right, how much time I got? I'm going to do one more thing real quick. Here's what's really important about the gospel writers that is not true for almost every other historian at the time. The gospel writers had nothing to gain to write what they wrote. No worldly possessions, no worldly power, no cultural cachet. Do you guys ever want to be famous or important or successful? A few of you don't. I assure you, you will at some point want to be one of those things. Writing a gospel about Jesus in the first century would give you none of those things. In fact, all of the apostles were killed for their belief in Jesus. They chose to write about Jesus even though it would not make their lives better, which indicates to us that they believed what they wrote. You still with me? All right. I only had 45 minutes. I got a lot more I could say. If you want to talk more about these issues, Andrew and Junior are available to answer all of your questions at any time, day or night. All right, what do? Do I pray out? All right, I'm going to pray out. You guys ready? All right. Father, we thank you for today. I pray for these young students, these young junior hires and high schoolers as they muscle their way through a conference. I thank you so far for their patience and their attention. I pray that you bless them, that you enable them to understand what is being said, that you give them excitement for each session. I pray for the other speakers, that you work through them, for Justin and Andrew and Junior and Hannah and Hope. I pray that this is a great day. I pray that everyone stays safe at Knott's Berry Farm tomorrow and makes really good choices while they're there. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.